So everyone's talking about NVIDIA, right?
Yeah.
Leading the AI wave, huge valuation, all that.
Yeah, they're definitely the poster child.
But there's this other giant, a trillion-dollar tech company, also massive in AI, that most people, maybe even you listening, haven't really heard much about. Broadcom.
Exactly. And what's so interesting and what our source material touches on is how they got there. It wasn't the typical Silicon Valley startup story, inventing something totally new.
Right. It was different.
Very different. It's more a story of, let's say, strategic maneuvering and financial engineering almost. So today, we want to kind of unpack that strategy, see what it tells us about building tech leadership in maybe a less conventional way.
Okay, let's dig in. So Broadcom wasn't just born yesterday. It goes way back.
Back to 61, actually. Started as a division within HP.
HP, wow. Doing what?
Things like fiber optics, LEDs. So even then, it was about communication tech, moving data.
Interesting. Then it spun off in 91.
Yeah, a UCLA professor and a student took it out, focused it on chips for high-speed cable internet. Super important for, well, everything that came next online.
But it wasn't a totally smooth start. The source mentioned some issues.
No, not entirely. There was a stock options scandal fairly early on, which actually led to the founders leaving. So, yeah, some bumps in the road even back then.
Okay, but then comes 2005. This feels like the real catalyst. Private equity, KKR, steps in.
Right. KKR buys HP's old semiconductor division, renames it Avago Technologies, and crucially, they bring in Hock Tan as CEO.
Hock Tan. He seems central to this whole story. What was his approach?
Absolutely central. Tan came in with a very, very clear playbook. Cut anything non-essential, focus only on the really high-margin stuff, and then just grow like crazy through M&A, mergers and acquisitions.
So less about inventing the next big thing, more about buying and optimizing.
Pretty much. His genius, you could say, was spotting companies that were maybe undervalued or strategically useful, snapping them up, and then being absolutely ruthless about efficiency and profitability, like financial arbitrage on tech companies.
And they made some big moves. 2015, Avago buys the original Broadcom, which was actually bigger at the time.
Yep. Bought the bigger fish and then took its name. Bold.
That is bold.
Huh?
But even before that, 2014, they bought LSI. How important was that one? Especially thinking about AI now.
Oh, hugely important.
Yeah.
LSI was deep in data storage, networking, the kinds of things you need for big data centers.
Okay, the building blocks.
Exactly, the building blocks for AI infrastructure. So by buying LSI, Broadcom basically got a fast pass into supplying chips for custom AI setups. They didn't need to spend billions developing it all internally.
Clever. And that got them in with the big guys. Google, Apple, Meta.
You got it. Google, Apple, Meta, even ByteDance. They became a key, if somewhat hidden, supplier to the tech giants building out AI.
Okay, but then they tried to buy Qualcomm in 2017.
Yeah.
That got blocked, right?
It did. Big antitrust concerns, government intervention. It was a massive potential deal that fell through.
So what then? Did they just stick to chips?
No, this is another interesting pivot. They shifted strategy towards software. Big time.
Software, like what?
Acquiring companies like CA Technologies, Symantec's enterprise division, and then the massive VMware deal. These are all about cloud infrastructure, data centers, enterprise software.
So moving up the stack from just the hardware?
Precisely. If you can't buy the biggest mobile chip maker, buy the software companies that manage the infrastructure where all that data and AI processing happens. It's all connected to supporting that AI ecosystem.
It's kind of amazing how they've grown so huge without being a household name like, say, Intel or Apple.
It really is. Quiet dominance.
And that stat, 99% of global internet traffic touches a Broadcom chip. Is that real?
Apparently so. It speaks volumes about their position in the underlying network infrastructure, just everywhere.
Wow. But it hasn't all been positive press, has it? The source mentions criticisms.
No, definitely not. With that kind of market share and their aggressive M&A and contracting style, they've faced accusations of, well, monopolistic practices, squeezing customers, tough terms. That's part of the story, too.
So looking at the big picture, what's the main lesson here?
Well, it certainly shows there's more than one way to become a tech giant, right? It's not just about inventing the next iPhone. Broadcom's path highlights strategy, timing, financial discipline, and really bold execution.
Yeah, it's like they built this empire through smart deals and operational excellence rather than just pure invention.
Exactly. An unconventional path, maybe, but undeniably successful in financial terms. A trillion-dollar company built largely through M&A.
So, okay, a final thought then, building on this. If Broadcom used strategic consolidation, this M&A playbook, to dominate in semiconductors and related software, where else could this work? What other established industries, maybe ones that seem a bit slow-moving, might be ready for a similar kind of transformation through really smart, aggressive consolidation? Something for you listening to think about.